Blog Talk Radio.
Good afternoon, this is Andy Peacher and author Timothy Spearman. We are the Knights of Liberty show. We're on Freedom Talk Radio every Saturday, 12 noon Eastern and 5 p.m. in London time in the UK. Welcome to the show. We've got a couple of amazing ladies coming on today. Tim?
Good news, Andy. I look forward to having our little introduction here. So I guess you're going to introduce our first guest. That'd be nice. So go ahead.
Yeah, I've told the guest to call in a couple more minutes because we have some show promos. I just wanted to know what the weather was like over there. It's absolutely -5 to 10 at the moment over here.
Yeah, well, I keep hoping spring has sprung, but then I get deluged by snow or cold, and anyway, it's got cold again. We were talking about a snowstorm here, but fortunately that hasn't happened. But it's cold. It's gone cold again. Okay, no problem. And I want to announce to everybody that on www.freedomtalkradio.net or freedomtalkradio.co.uk, go to the bottom of the web page and open the chat room. We are there if you need us. Well, at least I am. We need to promote this feature every week now. I'll play a couple of promos and we'll be back in a few seconds.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
This is freedomtalkradio.net, and you are listening to Freedom Talk Radio.
Well,
from beautiful Saline in southeastern Michigan.
Around the world.
This is the 2009 Top 10 Webcam in the World winner. This is SETV.
Thank you for listening to the Freedom Talk Radio Network and the Knights of Liberty show with your host, Andy Peacher, and author Timothy Spearman. Live from Grimsby in the UK and Toronto in Canada every Saturday at 5 p.m. UK time and 12 noon Eastern Standard Time in the USA and Canada. Call into the show when the phone lines are open. UK call-in number 0131 618 7778. And from the USA and Canada, call 315 462 4100. Visit the station's website on www.freedomtalkradio.co.uk and author Timothy Spearman's website www.shakespeare.com. That's www.shakespeare.com. Look at
freedomtalkradio.co.uk.
Let's go!
This is the most diverse, most amazing, one of the funniest radio stations you could ever listen to on the internet. I've heard so much stuff from the ups, the downs, the left, the right.
The politics, the non-politics, the schmolitics, whatever you want to call them.
It's great.
Yeah, welcome back to Freedom Talk Radio. And I do apologise, I pressed the wrong button. Author Timothy Spearman's website at www.shakespeare.com. Go to the books tab, or you can go to authortimothyspearman.yolasite.com for all the latest books, including Sailing the Seven Seas and Butterfly Dreams. We do have our guest online now, Stephanie Mann, and we're going to just read out a little bit about what she's about. She's an author of 4 national safety and crime prevention books. Consultant, community safety for law enforcement, citizens and community groups. Keynote speaker, workshop facilitator, community safety coach, young and citizen trainer. Stephanie Mann has seen it all. Drugs, violence, crime, gangs, poverty and abuse. For 43 years, her reaction has always been, get the community involved. In 1969, residents were waiting for the police to stop drug abuse and burglaries without a local police department. Volunteers spearheaded the Neighbourhood Responsibility Programme, and within 2 years, neighbours cut crime by 48%. In 1975, she co-authored Alternatives to Fear, Guidelines for Safer Neighbourhoods. Thousands of copies were sold to police departments, government agency, libraries and the FBI. The book helped launch the Neighbourhood Watch program nationwide. Oh, that was amazing. We've got something similar over in the UK. County Coordinator for Contra Costa County and co-authored Safe Homes, Safe Neighbourhoods, Stopping Crime Where You Live, NOLA Press, 1993. Stephanie saw a legacy of childhood neglect and wrote Street Safe Kids, 10-step guide to help youth develop self-esteem and stay centered. Stephanie saw the potential of churches reaching out to help create safer cities and wrote the Adopt a Block guidebook, 10 Steps to a Safe and Healthy Neighborhood. Stephanie has appeared on Bill Moyer's PBS special Solutions to Violence and has been a frequent guest on radio and television with over 130 appearances. Safe Kids Now blog, www.safekidsnow.blogspot.com. Facebook is /Stephanie Mann, .man, sorry. Twitter is @Beyond Nay Watch, NEIG Watch, and LinkedIn profile is Stephanie Mann. And there's plenty of podcasts on safekidsnow.podmatic.com also on iTunes. So yeah, plenty to go on. But I'm sure the links will be found on safekidsnow.com. So that's Stephanie Mann and Safe Kids Now. So without further ado, we'll welcome to the show. Welcome to the show, Stephanie, and I'm Andy from the UK, and we've got author Timothy Spearman from Toronto.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm delighted to be here and have a chance to talk to you.
I can't wait. The only thing I don't know if I've made clear, we've only got about an hour today because of other commitments that have come up.
Well, good. I'm happy to share.
Yeah, we usually give an hour to an author, and if it's a topic, we give 2 hours. So, yeah, I'll give Tim, say hello to Stephanie, because I'm rabbiting on as usual.
Hi, Stephanie. Welcome to the show. So we're quite interested in hearing about all of your efforts to keep the children safe. So how effective do you think your writing has been in drawing attention to these various social campaigning issues that you're trying to help with? Have you got quite a lot of attention from your books, and how long have you been at it?
Well, nice to meet you, Tim, and thank you for asking, because we have had kind of a shift in thinking, especially since the monetary situation in our cities is dropping. So they're cutting back on police in many areas. So now is the time for people to take full responsibility for the safety of their neighborhood and for protecting the children. And that's one of the reasons why my articles and books are doing pretty well at this point, because people see that, or they're scared. Fear motivates people, unfortunately, and fear also drives them to take some steps to make their neighborhoods safe. And as you mentioned, Andy, we did reduce crime 48% without a police department. So people are very powerful when they get involved and get connected with neighbors. Matter of fact, I might just mention that I just published an article called National Priority, Protect Children, and I'm getting an awful lot of feedback from that. And if people would like to look at it, they just need to go to safekidsnow.com and click blog, and you will find the article. So I think one of the biggest problems is child abuse, and we can stop that or help each other to stop that.
Yeah, can I say to everyone, I've read the National Priority Protect Children, and it's all about a young man walking into a mole. Basically, I won't say any more than that, but I wanted to highlight the fact that it's a brilliant article, and more articles by Stephanie, such as After Sandy Hook, Look Beyond Gun Control, Stop Gun Violence, Strengthening Families, The Perfect Storm for Violence, Why Kids Take Drugs, and many, many more can be found in the same place. They're lovely e-zines, Stephanie, well read, well researched, and well written even.
Oh, well, thank you. It's that we need to change our perception. Matter of fact, it's a myth that the police can protect you. In the United States, it's 2.5 police officers for every 1,000 citizens. So it doesn't even make sense to assume that the police can protect you. So if you want to keep safe, you need to get connected with your neighbors. They are your best protection.
Fair enough. Now, do you have, I'm just curious to know, has it ever been proposed within your neighborhood watch activities that some kind of chip kit be offered so that kids can be tracked by some type of microchip? Has that ever been proposed in your to your knowledge?
Well, since the National Neighborhood Watch Program is all over the country, it's hard for me to know if somewhere people have decided that is a way to go. However, I don't personally like the idea of putting chips in children. I like the idea of people getting connected. And let me give you an example of why. Malcolm Gladwell wrote a book called Outliers. And Outliers is a very popular book. I think it was a bestseller. One of the stories in Outliers is about Rosetta, Pennsylvania. And in Rosetta, two doctors were talking, one from Rosetta and one from a nearby town. The nearby town doctor was saying, I have people dying of heart attacks, I have people dying of cancer, strokes, you name it. Too many people are dying in my community. And the doctor from Rosetta said, well, that's strange. He said, the only way people are dying in my community of Rosetta is of old age. So they put a grant together to try and figure out what in the world, how can it be possible that the only way these people are dying of is just old age? They thought maybe it was ancestry or heritage, or they weren't sure. So they went into the community and did a study. They took blood tests, and they couldn't figure it out because the people smoked, they drank, they did everything that everybody else does. So they didn't know what was going on until they saw the community itself. They were so connected. They all belonged to social groups. They interacted in the neighborhood, and they also had a little church in the town, and that was the reason they only died of old age. So to make a long story short here, it's people getting connected, and we don't, I would like to see us go back to, and we're never going to get back to that, I know that, but we can do a whole lot better than we're doing today when people are killing people on the streets, and these children are disconnected. We have child abuse in the neighborhood. We have domestic violence. 1 in 4 women in the United States is in an abusive relationship. 1 in 10 men are in an abusive relationship. And these children are growing up, and what are they learning? They're learning to bully. They're learning to be victims. And if we don't turn that around and get connected and understand that child abuse and domestic violence are basically spiritual problems, if we don't do that, we're not going to, we're going to keep looking for chips, putting chips in children and putting more cameras on our streets, and having surveillance and losing more and more of our freedoms. So we can turn this around.
Good. I like what I'm hearing, and I totally concur, and that's why I asked, because I just wanted to see what your perspective was and how you felt about this surveillance and this microchipping business and all that, because it's a great concern to me too. And so I'm glad that that's your perspective. I totally agree that it's up to the people to empower themselves rather than to disempower themselves by placing the trust in some body or organization or the police or microchips or whatever, or surveillance cameras. I totally support your effort and your way of looking at the whole problem. So, great. Andy, do you have anything you would like to ask her?
Yeah, sure. You wrote a book, obviously, called Safe Kids Now, yeah?
Right.
Do you want to sort of go through, I mean, it's obvious what it's about, but in some ways, promote it a little and tell people where you can buy it from and all your websites, and then at least we've got that one out of the way in case we get into deep conversation.
Well, I worked with the homeless for 4.5 years, and one of the things I noticed was that I began to hear horror stories about the physical, mental, and spiritual abuse they suffered as children in their own homes. And this is where the abuse comes in, and domestic violence, and how we need to stop this behavior in our own homes. So when I heard the horror stories, and some of them were basically horror stories, in working with the homeless, I was out in what was called in that time Old Man's Park. And one man came up to me one day, and he said, "Can you help me?" And I said, and my immediate thought was he was going to ask me for money. but he didn't want money. He said he had been in San Quentin prison, and he said, I know I need to change myself, but I don't know what to do. And he said, I need some help. So not knowing a thing about psychiatry or psychology, I said, I don't know how I can help you, but I can certainly listen to you. So we sat down on a park bench in the park, and he told me his story. And as he went along, and we met every Saturday for about a month, or maybe it was 2 months, and he said, I've learned so much. Now, here I am. I'm a mother, and all I was telling him was some really basic stuff that he'd never heard before, and it was just wisdom. It's not rocket science. So he said, I've learned so much from our conversation. I've been talking to the men out here in the park, and they want to meet with us. Well, I didn't feel too comfortable with that because, a large group, I wasn't going to do that. So I looked around, and I said, well, there's a church on the corner over there. And I said, if you can get the minister to let us meet in his church, I'll do it. So he went over, and he talked to the pastor, and the pastor said, okay, we'll do it. We'll try it for 3 months, and if we don't see any improvement or anything, then we're going to quit. But we're just going to give it 3 months. Well, we sat there it was every Wednesday at 1 o'clock. We met with the men for 2 hours. And as a result of after 3 months, 3 of the men got jobs, and we got 3 others into rehab. So what I'm saying is we listened to them, and then we guided them. Now, in the book, Street Safe Kids, I put together the 10 steps of simple things that the men didn't have a clue about. And step 1 was recognize how special you are. It seems to me, and I heard the horror stories, they didn't know they were special at all. They blamed themselves. They felt like they deserved to be homeless, and they had no self-esteem whatsoever. And step 2 was discover the strength through pain. Well, they'd never thought of that. They were just totally angry. They were angry at the world. They were angry, self-destructive. And number 3 was handle anger in a positive way. So we tried to help them make the turnaround and say, okay, this is what happened to me, but it's not going to keep me stuck. I'm going to move on. I'm going to forgive myself. I'm going to forgive the people that have hurt me, and I'm taking back my life. And then find your center. Well, spiritually centered people are protected because they use their intuition, they take charge of their life, they set goals to succeed, they connect with others, and they find their inner power. So all of those steps we put into Street Safe Kids. So this book has been used to teach kids in school. We have graphics and pictures and stories in the book so that people can, help take their own story and put it into working with children. So, yeah, we've had great success with Street Safe Kids.
I'm very amazed. This is a very effective program here that you've got going. I especially like the fact that you're concentrating on the spiritual aspects of it. And, it reminds me a little bit of Eastern philosophy and Confucian philosophy, because in that philosophy, one builds oneself, then one builds one's family, then one's community, then one's city, and then the whole country becomes consolidated. So you start from the microcosm and then you work your way out to the macrocosm. And I think that's really the only way to do it, because if you try to help others and you haven't got your own act together, then it's really self-defeating. It's going to not go anywhere.
Well, I think that's why government is not effective. They put people in places, and they are not necessarily have it all together. And they try, and, you know, there's some wonderful people out there that have helped a lot. And there are a lot of churches that do outreach. But you're absolutely right. You've got to start with yourself and look within yourself and say, am I spiritually centered, and how can I help other people? Because that's the reason I think we're here.
Sure. Now, what was the spiritual teaching or teacher or what have you that got this notion of spiritual centeredness into you, or were you the person who came up with that idea? I mean, where did that idea come from as far as you can recall?
Well, it came from listening to other people, but I grew up in a very dysfunctional household. My parents got divorced when I was 10, and my father was an alcoholic. We had abuse within the family, not toward me, but I observed my brother being abused. And then my mother, after they got divorced, she had a boyfriend, and her children were no longer important to her. So I had to grow up pretty much on my own, and because also at age 15, they took me down to Mexico City because I was doing so poorly in school, which is kind of what happens to kids when they've got a lot of turmoil at home. You wonder why your child isn't doing well in school. Well, I wasn't doing well in school because my parents were not doing well, and it's hard to concentrate and learn when you've got a messed up family that are hurting each other, and of course they're hurting even the observer, which was my role. I was kind of the peacemaker. I was trying to help the family, and it was a full-time job. So then when I was 15, they took me out of school and went down to Mexico City with her boyfriend, and they abandoned me there, and I didn't even speak the language. So you learn a lot about yourself when you have rough times, and I think that is your best teacher.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. So why do you suppose your brother was subject to some form of abuse and you weren't? Did you have some way of creating a kind of a cloak of invisibility? Did you know how to avoid abuse yourself, or was it just lucky that you weren't the target of that? What happened there?
Well, my brother was about 6'1" when he was 13 years old. He never grew any more than that, but he looked like a man when he was 13 and 14. All he wanted to do was play the piano. My mother had been a pianist, and he inherited that. I don't think it's a gene, but he wanted to play the piano. And my father became very abusive because he thought it was an effeminate trait, and he tried to beat it out of him. And then he sent him to military school, and he ran away from military school. So his life was miserable. That he's been gone now for 35 years. But, it's abuse takes a terrible toll. There was a lady that wrote a book, Raise the Child You Have, Not the Child You Want. And that is so critical because you can't change your child. They are born the way they are. You need to nurture them and love them and care about them, and they will blossom. If you try and control them, they do just the opposite. They rebel, they get angry, they get frustrated. And I saw all of that, and I saw that within the homeless. that same scenario. So that's why I wrote Street Safe Kids.
Good.
I was just going to comment that a lot of children that are being abused or been abused, they seem to take their I suppose their frustration out within music, within poetry, within writing, because it obviously helps them big time, and I do believe that. We're trying to organise over here a concert for the website is concertforabusedchildren.com, and it's going to be the bands in the UK playing at one of the biggest concert venues in London called the O2 Arena, and all the money will go to a safe house that will help the children if they run away, if they get abused, if they need any legal support. They can go to that safe house for 2 weeks and get some support. It's amazing. We always try and link up different people to see if they've got anything in common. And I think on another show, on another day, you and our founder and our friend Maggie Tuttle, exactly like you, worked for the homeless, worked helped the prisoners' wives, helped the abused children. So she's done that all her life, and she's helped the people in the community. And one thing that made me decide that was the story of the man in the park, because Maggie will talk to the people, the tramps, the down and outs, the alcoholics at their level, and they love her for it, and she gets a lot of respect. And my hat goes off to you, Stephanie.
Well, there's so many people that we are not touching their potential. We're losing them. And we have so many amazing children out there that don't even know they have these amazing gifts within themselves. So if we can come together as communities, as families, and help children, that is the greatest thing you can do for the future of your country, I think. Well, I think everybody thinks that too, I hope. But it's going to take a lot of people to understand that child abuse is a killer. I might mention that I had 3 children. And they are totally different. And you ask any mother, and she'll say, "Oh, my children are very different." Well, I had one as a small child, and this is how you can tell a little bit about your kids and what you need to do in order to guide them in the right direction. I had one daughter that was, she was so shy that she would hide every time people came into the room or she had to meet somebody. Now, this is when she was 3 and 4. So if you have a shy child, you have to get them out and get them involved. And even if they cry when you leave them, you've got to help them grow stronger within themselves. The next child was a bully child. So she was very difficult. And I had to help her learn how to modify her behavior. She needed strict discipline. She needed a lot of sitting on and saying, you know what, this is not acceptable, and this is what we're taking away from you. And then I had another child, and he was very centered. And he could be either, once in a while, very emotional and shy, or he could be a bully at some time. But he was much more centered. So the goal for every parent is to help your child find their spiritual center, and that's by nurturing their emotions. If you have a bully child, help them modify their behavior. You're going to have to be stronger with them. If you have, no abuse, please, but if you have a shy child, you have to get them out. You cannot let them to become a loner. Those are the most difficult children. And those are usually your sensitive children that are your most artistic children. And sensitive, artistic children, they're so vulnerable. We have to help all of our children, but watch out for the sensitive kids because they can become isolated very quickly. And that is not the way you want it to go. You want to empower them, let them know that they have this power within themselves. So if we do that, you're going to see a much stronger society.
Absolutely. There's a lady listening now, Daniela. She says hello to Stephanie, and Stephanie, you're bringing out some really good information, and she's been listening and reading all your articles as well. So thanks, Daniela.
Oh, well, thank you, Daniela. Get in touch with me. I'd be happy to talk with anybody or share information, or if you have a problem about this, let me know. You can reach me on safekidsnow.com, and I'll be happy to talk to people about, what's going on with their kids. I'm also on Facebook. If you go to Facebook / Stephanie Mann, and you can write right on there on Facebook and ask me questions. Happy to talk to you.
Brilliant. Sorry, Tim. I think what's going on at the moment, Stephanie, and it's got to be linked somehow. I'm not sure how. Tim will probably be able to answer this better. But we're having all these false flags, such as Sandy Hook. We're having, fake Obamas in presidency. We're having all these little things happening, but down on ground level, the children are being stolen from the parents to gain control of the parents. Now, that's no, NLP. That's, a parent's got a child with autism or something similar. The parent needs help, goes to social worker. Within a few weeks, social worker takes child, and there you go. There's your control, because the parent then gets very sad, go onto mental health drugs. The child may be the same, and there you go. That's one family ruined. It's happened to me, and it's happened to thousands that I know. I mean, what do you think is going to happen more, or have we just got bad luck with social workers in this century?
I don't think some social workers should not be social workers. Oh, I'll say that again. I've heard horror stories about CPS in our country. I'm not sure what's going on in other countries, but I did read a letter from a lady in Canada, and she was most upset about what had gone on. What is the terminology in Canada? It's not CPS. It's something else.
Yeah,
but
I think
anyway.
it's docs, not docs. That's in Australia. But Tim will know, no?
Well, we have child agencies, children's... Isn't
it CAP or something? Anyway,
yes.
I've heard horror stories because people get jobs and they get paid to do something. Well, they're going to do it. That's the name of the game here. If you have a police officer, he's paid to arrest people. If you have a parole officer, he's paid to watch over people. So what I'm trying to suggest is that you take charge of your own child, whether they have autism or not, and you find the help you need in a support group at church or at a synagogue. Find the support you need, but be careful of government intervention here, because I can't tell you how many stories I've heard. So I just be aware. Be aware.
Yeah, the Children's Aid Society is what we have, and it's been, as you describe it, a very threatening society as far as families are concerned, and they come into your home and they interview you, and they often recommend that the child be taken into care. And I imagine it's similar to the situations that Andy is dealing with over in the UK in that regard. And you definitely don't want to attract their attention, because they, I know of a case of my former publisher who has one of her children now. He's not with her, and he doesn't want to come home because he's been taken into care, and it seems almost as if he's been brainwashed to think that he doesn't need family, and that it's not in his best interest to return to his own family and to his own home. So she's obviously devastated, and obviously they're watching the family situation very closely to decide the fate of the younger child and what's going to happen there. So I would not like to be in that situation, to have some government agency breathing down my neck and interfering with my family affairs. Well, you're concerned about abuse. I'd say that, yes, there was some evidence that there was abuse on the part of the father, but the mother took effort to have him removed from the fray, so he's now left the home and he's out living on his own, and his visits with the children have to be supervised. So I don't see that there's any danger of the children being abused at this stage. The father's mentally ill, God only knows what with, because I don't find that the psychiatric field is terribly reliable in terms of what it labels us as being or having. For example, ADHD, attention deficit hyperactive disorder, appears to be a complete ruse, because Leon Eisenberg, who was with the Psychiatric Association of the United States, admitted at the age of 87 on his deathbed that what he originally called hyperkinetic reaction in childhood and then later changed to attention deficit hyperactive disorder is, in his own words, a perfect example of a fictitious disease, and that he made it up. And yet, 1 in 10 10-year-old children in the United States is diagnosed with it and given Ritalin, which is basically an amphetamine type of drug. And many of these kids that get hooked on this amphetamine-like drug end up taking amphetamine properties chemical-wise later in life, because they've been made addicts by the pharmaceutical system that's supposed to be medicinal but is actually poisoning our children. So you want to talk about child abuse, Stephanie? I accuse my government and the medical establishment of child abuse, and our school system of child abuse. I mean, how dare they come into the classroom and teach underage children how to sodomize each other with condoms and do a demonstration in class. I'm not saying anything against the practices of homosexuals. I'm simply saying they're too young and this is not appropriate. It's child abuse.
I agree with you completely. There's a very good expert on that particular topic, and her name is Dr. Judith Reisman. And for anybody that's concerned about how this got into our system, how the pervasiveness of sex education started, go and look up Dr. Judith Reisman, Reismann, and she will enlighten you. And she was even sued by some of these Hustler and Playboy magazines, but she has the documents to prove that some of this sexual orientation that's being exposed to our children started way back with the Kinsey report, and he was a predator and a pedophile. And there still has that influence in our communities, and it's going to be people, and that's one of the reasons why I am so strong on getting ordinary citizens, just like people that listen to you, up and out and say, we need to form a committee to strengthen families. The family is the single most important structure in any free society. When the family breaks down, we have more government intervention, so we need to put the family back together, and we need to encourage people to take more responsibility for their neighborhood and family, because that will be that's what a democracy is all about, basically, the family unit. So we've got to strengthen each other.
I totally agree with you. And it seems that the social engineering programs that have been orchestrated by if I may say, the Vatican. And by this, I'm not making any disparaging remarks against Catholicism or the Catholic Church or Catholics. I'm talking about the Vatican, which I see as a satanic organization. It actually means House of Cain, based on my research. And all of the efforts of this former Roman Empire, which changed its name really to the Holy Roman Empire, and you see how very unholy its practices are. And when you look at the control they exercise through the education system and through the various institutions that they control worldwide, you can see that it does a great deal of harm. And so a lot of the institutions that we place our faith and trust in are to our detriment. And what we find is that, for example, the CIA, which most people think is a military intelligence agency designed to protect the sovereignty and the well-being of the United States of America, is in fact a Vatican-controlled organization, and their secret name is the Company, which really is the same name given to the Jesuit Order of the Vatican, which is the military wing of the Vatican. And they call themselves the Company, both the CIA and the Jesuit Order, because they see themselves, or at least try to see themselves, as of the company of Jesus. Well, far from being the company of Jesus, they're of the company of Satan, if you ask me. But anyway, the other name for the CIA is the Knights of the Holy See. Now, what the researcher and writer Henry Mackau believes, and he wrote a book called The Cruel Hoax, Feminism and the New World Order, he believes that the Vatican, that controls the CIA, or the Knights of the Holy See, whatever you want to call them, orchestrated a social engineering program to break up and destroy the family. And they did this by promoting alternative lifestyles that weren't nurturing of the family and didn't promote childbirth and creating a new generation of people, but that they controlled their social engineering programs in order to destroy the family. And not that there's anything wrong with empowering women or having women take a greater position in society, not to suggest that, but that radical feminism was actually damaging not only to society but to women and to the family unit, and far from actually advancing the ambitions and the health and well-being of women, it's actually destroyed the psyche of men, women, the nuclear family, and so it's been to the detriment of our whole community. And certainly you can see that there's a big problem with our community and our society in North America. And I do think there's a great deal of truth in what Henry Mackau has written, and I think it's for that reason that he was fired from his tenured position at York University in Toronto, Canada. I don't know what you think about any of that, Stephanie, but I just had to share what my research has led me to see and to believe.
Well, I think it's important to note that power is, power is addicting. And people that get power, and they want power. Look at some of our politicians. And we've got a lot of things wrong. But that is the reason I'm starting at the very grassroots level, and that is getting people connected in neighborhoods, having them know that they're not alone. If you're locked up behind doors and you're scared and you've bought a gun to protect yourself and you're worried about your kids on the street, we've got a lot of work to do. And the way you start is to start at your neighborhood level. Go talk to your city leaders and say, we need a committee that looks at nothing but how to strengthen the family in our city. I'm working with Pritchard, Alabama, and Pritchard has a high crime rate. I just talked to the mayor this morning, and we will be doing a workshop for them, and we are sending them information on how to take back your city. And he is so excited. We've been talking now for almost a year, and if we can get mayors and city leaders to understand that here is how you empower your community, we can stop a lot of these problems. But we need to get involved.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I personally agree on that level, and we will try and get you back on. We've got 10 more minutes yet, but we'll get you back on, I think, with Maggie Tuttle, because you've got a wealth of information. And that Dr. Reisman, the one I've found is Dr. Judith Reisman. Absolutely fantastic.
Yes. She's an amazing lady, and I encourage everybody to take a look at how this sex revolution started and who's involved in it, and educate yourselves, because there is a lot of information that she has, and she has lots of videos so that you can check her out and see what she's been doing, because she has a fascinating story.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's the same thing, Tim, but Maggie was researching and saying that at least the child abuse or the incest started, decades ago, 12th, 13th, 14th century, and we've always wanted to meet somebody who knows a bit more, because I think research on the internet is still a bit vague.
Mm-hmm.
When you go before, the 15th century, but it's been going on for tons of years, and I mean, in them days it was apparently, from memory, quite, well, not normal, but nobody bothered, because I think in the 70s or early 80s, in the UK anyway, the early 80s I think is the figure, they only just decided that, child abuse was actually, here. It's
yes,
the official, we'll put the laws in, but before that, people could do what they want.
Well, as a matter of fact, that was one of the things I heard growing up. What happens in this house stays in this house. People and kids did not tell about the abuse. They still don't. Girls are raped. It could be by a relative, or it could be a date rape. They still are not talking. This has to be exposed. We need men to do a better job of helping boys grow up to be much more responsible. You mentioned about the children shooting in schools here. We have a social isolation problem. These are all kids that have been socially isolated. We've got a lot of work to do. Then one of the things they're saying on the news, and Piers Morgan is one of the talkers, keeps promoting gun control. Well, it's not going to happen, because there are a lot of steps before you get to gun control. You've got to reduce the fear. Fear is one of the reasons people are buying guns. There are 310 million guns in circulation. This is, you're not going to, now what I'm trying to say is people are frightened, they're not connected, and when they're not connected, and the families need to be supported so that we don't have accidents in the home and people have guns. Your chances are 16 times greater if you have a gun in the home. So there's a lot of education that has to go on here for people to take back their family, take back their neighborhood, take back their community, because there's a lot of bad stuff going on.
Yep, that's for sure. Bad stuff. Now, you see the tide is turning. Do you think that things are now moving in the right direction? What is your feeling?
Oh, absolutely. I must tell you, I am so encouraged. I am seeing women that have lost 2 kids, which is horrible, but they started their own organizations. I've seen people that have been victims of child abuse getting involved and educating themselves and speaking up. I see churches that are training new leaders to reach out into the community. I'm very much encouraged. We're on the march here, and I'm just thrilled to see all of the activity that's going on. So we're going to change it. It's just going to be a slow process because it's taken us a long time to get into this situation.
Can you give us some kind of indication on percentage numbers of how many people you think countrywide are involved in this program?
Well, there are thousands. Let's see. I've got an old figure that goes back, oh my gosh, a number of years, but there are like 50,000 organized groups and cities that are trying to make things happen in their city. People are getting involved. We have crime prevention officers. When I first started, the police were not out of their cars. They weren't community-oriented. And just look at how the police have made changes, and they're really working hard to make a much more community type of interaction between the police and the citizens. So that's a very positive thing that's happened. So there are thousands and thousands of people that are just in the process of learning or have learned a lot, and they're sharing with other communities. So it's growing. We're taking this back. We're not going to be a pill culture forever because that has been very destructive to children. So we're making changes, and as I say, I'm very encouraged.
Very good. Very good. You were talking about the fact that the future of the nation depends on this. Now, I'm Generation X, so I grew up in the 1970s, basically, and I was born in 1964, the year of the dragon, and I'm Generation X. Now, I don't know if there really is Generation Y and Z, but I think we had it pretty tough in terms of struggling for a career and looking for jobs. We went through the 80s recession, but when I look at, if I could just make a reference to the current generation, let's call them Generation Y and Z, I think they've got it even tougher. And in terms of what the international banking cabal has been up to and the prospects for the economy and the wage levels declining, the standard of living declining, the inability of our wage levels to keep pace with inflation and with the cost of living. I've read newspaper articles right here in Canada, in Ontario, indicating that the students that are trying to put themselves through higher educational institutions are having a real struggle because they're having enough trouble paying their rent. They don't really have any disposable income, and they certainly don't have enough to pay for their tuition and their books, and they're really having a tough time. Are they going into debt? Yeah, they are. And so this is no way to start your career life where you're saddled with that you're practically drowning in, and you're going to be spending a good portion of your career paying off that debt. And what are the prospects of marriage when you're so saddled in debt that you can't really offer a stable home for your wife and family, your children, because of this enormous debt that you're in the process of paying off? So the whole system is, and I call it the system, is counterproductive to the nurturing of our children and our future generation. And you're absolutely right that we have to empower ourselves. Don't leave it to them, the people cooking the books, to get us out of this mess. We have to get ourselves out of this mess. And community is the answer.
Absolutely. No, I couldn't agree with you more, because we've got a lot of problems, but we need a lot more people involved. We need a lot more people to look at an individual problem and say, you know what, I'm going to get involved and help with that. There are groups in your community that you can look at and say, okay, I really would like to help with, in a group that's working on child abuse or domestic violence, or because there are plenty of groups out there. Go and support them. Learn about it, because education is the key to change here. And we can put our families back together. We are in the place that we are supposed to be. And this is where the spiritual awakening is going to come up, because people are making that amazing transformation and understanding more about the power of their own spirit. And once they do that, they're going to make the changes, and you're going to see a lot of good things happening.
Okay, let's just imagine this, Stephanie. You and I and Andy and a few of our colleagues who have backgrounds in various areas of specialization, we set up an education institution so that the youth that are trying to find their way in the world have guidance, and they're entering into our little educational institution, and they're learning how to network and how to apply for jobs, and we're giving them the tools that they need to succeed. Now, too many parents are interested in the prestige of sending them to Yale, UCLA, or some estimable institution, or even just getting a university education. But how nurturing is that institution when it's bankrupting the family? It's putting these kids in debt so that they have to spend a good portion of their career life paying off the debt. They're just gouging us for every cent, and at the end of the day, the university doesn't even help them find a job. They'd be better to go to a community college where there's co-op programs in an effort to find them jobs. These universities aren't doing anything for these youth in terms of their personal development. So if we could get the families to stop thinking about prestige and think about their child's future, imagine what we could do if we could set up a low-cost community education system where they could be granted the same equivalent education that a degree in a university or a higher educational institution could give them. But instead of them coming out not just empty at the end, saddled with debt, we actually help them find a job, because as part of our community, we actually are connected with people who will give them jobs. And once having the qualifications and the training that they need, they just simply enter into those jobs. And when asked, well, where did you go to school? Where did you get your degree? They can just turn around and say, does it matter? I have a good job, and I'm happy, and I'm fulfilled. So we've got to wean people off the feeling that they need these institutions, because they don't.
Well, I think it all depends on the child. Some kids have an aptitude for college and should be going to college, and they will be able to, in their profession, to pay back their loan. And I personally advocate for kids getting out in the world and volunteering, or on the side when they're in high school, going and working in a shelter, getting a picture of the real world, or try and get involved in something that they love. If they love automobiles, maybe go and work with people in an automobile club so they learn. But there's a lot of different ways to learn rather than just going to a university. And I would suggest to anybody, let your child work and volunteer for a year or two. I know money may be strapped, but there is nothing like volunteering your time to help somebody else as a teacher for you and an empowerer for you. So, yes, start a community college or a group like you were mentioning. You said if there was a way for people to get their education without going to the big university. Well, get other people together and see if you can't do it. I think that's a wonderful idea. Try it.
Well, it's not like something I haven't been thinking about, but it's, I don't know. I'm so busy with so many things. There's only so much one person can do. I'm hoping that will come up perhaps when I have a little bit more of a following. You need some credibility in order for people to come on board and agree to help you out with a program of that kind. And we're steadily trying to build that credibility, but Rome wasn't built in a day. These things are a step-by-step process. I've been engaged
like the community.
in a battle against the educational establishment my entire life, my entire career, and so I would definitely like to see an alternative to what we have as a matriculation system and as a higher educational institution. But I'm not yet in a position where I can actually start my own institution. But it's a goal. It is a goal. It's something that I've been thinking about for a long time.
Well, it's a worthwhile goal.
Mm-hmm.
It's a worthwhile goal.
Thank you. Okay, we have to end this, I'm sorry to say, because we have our next guest waiting to come up to bat. So thank you so much, Stephanie.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate the opportunity to share what information I have. And they're welcome. Anybody is welcome to contact me at www.safekidsnow.com. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. We'll be in touch because I think we can do another show, on another day with either ourselves or another host or just me and Maggie here. So keep in touch.
Okay, will do. Thank you so much. Nice to meet you, man. You guys. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Right, we've got our new guest coming on in a second. I've just told her to mute a microphone because we're going to read out a bio. The next guest is angelwritercreations.com and the author Susan. I'll read a bio out. I have been a freelance writer and editor, most for the past 3 years writing for different people and getting jobs through sites such as Freelancer and Guru. My specialities are in writing press releases, SEO-style articles, proofreading and editing. I need somebody like that. And ghostwriting. I'm also a blogger of several blogs related to knitting, Korean culture, poetry, and my personal thoughts. I've even published several poetry books for Lulu.com. In addition to this, as my main passion and love, I sometimes babysit 2 little girls part-time. They have taught me what it means about being their teacher and mentor. I give them the necessary care that they need to be safe and healthy. I also love learning about different cultures, especially Asian culture. That's why I have a degree in Japanese, Korean studies, have lived in South Korea as an English teacher for a few years, and sometimes make videos or write blogs relating to them. I'm also very active when it comes to peace and social justice issues, and I'm currently chair of the Peace and Justice Committee at St. Thomas Becket Catholic Church, the newly elected State Secretary, Local Vice President, and Social Networking Chair for Business and Professional Women's Foundation, Michigan, as well as the Social Media PR Chair for Enterprising and Professional Women USA Virtual Club. However, even while these activities keep me busy, I still sign petitions for other organizations on issues I care about and will sometimes speak on a few of them in my social media work. Hobbies: I love to read, knit, which I hope to expand in other areas and create things for others. So, Tim, introduce our new guest.
Yes, Sue Oser is an old friend. Lovely gal. And I'm sorry that I've kept her waiting, but that's all right because we're going to go over time a little bit just to see that she has enough time to spiel and say her say and all that, and it's always nice. We've done many shows in the past, and it's been a while though, because we've had such busy lives that it's been some period of time before we've come together again. So it's lovely, it's great, it's nice, it's like old times. Hi Sue, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, hanging in there. We've been having a lot of snow down this way.
Bad, eh? Wow.
Yeah, it's been a very, very rough winter. I can tell you that right now. And last month was just a really rough month. With us, we actually over here we had a couple leaky pipes that we've been dealing with, and a couple other things in our condo. So it's just been a little bit on the nutty side lately. But yeah, it has been a while.
It has. And you had some problems even with pipes and stuff in your home, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we have, but we're gonna get those fixed eventually. We've just have had a lot of other things going on right now.
Pleased to meet you, Sue.
Yeah, it's nice to meet you too.
Yeah, our Bill from Michigan, Celine, he's had problems with pipes. He's had problems with minus 15, can't get out of the house, and also his furnace keeps breaking down.
Oh, gee, see, that's going in the same boat. Because, see, the weather we've had here has been this is very unusual. The last time, I guess, it happened like about 20, 30 years ago, from what my dad was saying. So it's been a long time even for this nasty weather to occur.
Yeah, it's been a while, all right. I can't even remember a severe cold like this. Yeah, anyway. Somehow we're getting through it, though, aren't we?
Yeah, that's true.
Hey, did you get that ice storm? Did you have any, heavy ice on the...
We haven't had the ice. The ice storm happened. It was interesting because when my boyfriend was here for the holidays, that actually happened in his hometown, and we just got all the snow. So we've been lucking out.
Oh, okay. Because we had a good many branches and trees damaged up here from the ice and all that. It's quite amazing. It's hard to believe that ice is that heavy that it causes branches to be ripped off trees,
Right.
But anyhow, so tell us about, you've been a social activist for certainly as long as I've known you, and you've got this natural gift. You're a people person. So what is this vaping all about?
Oh, it's actually not called vaping. It's called vaping.
Oh, is that the proper pronunciation? Okay.
Yeah, and basically what vaping is, and this is something I'll even give you my background story on how I discovered this. This is something that's been around for the last couple of years, but it's just really taken off probably within the last year or two. What it is it's something that people have found is an alternative way to quit smoking. In some other circles, you look at the marijuana community, they've used it as another way to, get their intake in. However, within the community that wants to try to basically, it's a smoking cessation thing that they want to do, they want to separate themselves from that. The problem that's been happening, though, lately is there have been a lot of laws and rules and things down in which they want to try to add the wording of e-cigarettes into their vocabulary to try to ban the use of them in public places and whatnot, because when somebody is vaping, it kind of looks like smoking. But it's not. It's basically what you're doing is you are inhaling. What you have is you have a device that has a little tank or a cartridge or what have you, and you put in what they call like e-juice that could be ranged from no nicotine to maybe about 24 milligrams of nicotine. It really depends on and how it's determined is by how many packs of smokes or packs of analogs that you smoked, basically. And what has been happening is in a lot, especially in New York City has had this happen to them, and Los Angeles, where they said they basically had these moratoriums, city council meetings or whatever, with antis, or the ants as they're called, the ones who are not only against smoking but anything in general that looks like smoke, coming out in droves, while the vaping community really quite hasn't done that.
Oh.
So there's a couple groups that are involved with the vaping rights. One of them is called CASA, and another one's called a new one that's at the more local level that I've actually become a little bit more involved in is called the Vaping Militia.
Okay.
And basically the idea is we get these calls to action. We let people know, these groups get the calls to action and let people know, hey, this city's going to have this ban. You may want to contact them, write to your senators, write to your legislation, and let them know. We don't like whether we like the idea of regulation for age or regulation, or you want to do a total ban, depending on, depending on where you're located. New York the city already did a public ban. Utah's been kind of going back and forth. They set a ban, and people came out and said, "Oh no, you can't do that." So now they're kind of they stopped it, and now because of election season, everybody wants to throw their peacock feathers up, if you will.
Right.
So,
okay.
But as far as the community itself is concerned, I sort of discovered them on kind of an interesting lark because I was over on Online TV where a lot of the online vaping channels exist, which a lot of people in the real world, quote-unquote real world if you want to call it, don't know about. And I found a couple people that I used to know through blogtv.com where I've done shows there. And I started hanging out, and I thought these people were cool. They were teaching people, and I'm like, well, what is this vaping stuff? What is this all about? So I did my own little research, and I found out that even at a zero nec level, if you just want to just have that experience, it's supposed to be a thing to help smokers quit, but you can also do it like what I do is to support the community, if you will. And so when I discovered all this, I'm like, I need to tell my boyfriend about this. And eventually I got him into one of the channels that I host on now. And he's taken to it. He's been a little over 100 days analog free. And he considers himself a non-smoker and now a vapor.
Oh.
And he's doing very, very well with it. There's people I've gotten to know who have been vaping for about 3 years. I think there's one person I came across one time that it was even longer than that, and they absolutely love it. Now, some people, granted, do become hobbyists. They get addicted to the shiny muds or collecting juices or what have you. But as far as the community itself, I've never come across a community that when somebody is in dire need, they will come together and they will donate money, or in one case on the channel that I'm on, VapeNet, we recently stopped all our programming to have a special 24-hour auction that was organized by a couple of the VapeNet hosts, and it really turned out well because the money that we raised was for a family that had the one guy works at a vaping shop out in Illinois, and he basically got into a severe car accident. At first they had to revive him because he was initially pronounced dead. They were able to.
Yeah, go on. Sorry, Sue, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I got interrupted back in the background there. They basically were the guy that was in the accident. He ended up going to the hospital, and a couple of the members of VapeNet said, we got to do something. And they were going to raise money because they needed to pay for medical bills, and they also lost their car. And so that's when we had this charity event, and they raised over a little, almost close to $9,000 actually. So,
really? Wow.
Yes. So there is a really true blue community out there. That's just it's just like a support group. So if there's anybody out there that's looking to, they've tried everything, like the patches or cold turkey or Chantrix, which I understand a lot of people have had some nasty side effects to. it's just, yeah. This has become the alternative. But because it is an alternative, there's a lot of people that are like, and especially in government circles, that are saying, well, we don't know about this, so we're just going to ban it. You're not going to consider the research or the stories?
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. So they just judge you, basically. They're just judging. They're not really even looking into it to see how much merit the program might have.
Yeah, that's basically it. But at the same time, but it's not really more. It's not. I don't really wouldn't call it a program. I would call it more of a lifestyle.
Yeah.
I would definitely consider this a kind of lifestyle, a kind of way for people to improve their health. Like I said, something like an alternative source, if you will. There are city councils that have looked into it, but they've only looked at some outdated information and nothing current. Now, granted, there aren't really regulations, and there's certain things that the community's for. For example, making sure it's sold 18 and over, because one of the arguments they have thrown out against e-cigarettes is, oh, it affects the kids, and kids are going to be influenced by this. And we're like, well, where is the proof of this? Where are the studies? Where is the, where's the proof of that?
Right. Right. And as far as kids being influenced by it, is that necessarily a bad thing?
Well, the question is, it brings up the question of which would you rather have, kids smoking the analogs with almost 700 chemicals or 7,000 chemicals in it, or getting into vaping, which only has nicotine, if they choose so, or no nicotine, and some flavors, and it's made of vegetable glycerin, propylene glycol. I mean, which would you rather? I mean, that's the key question there. But at the same time, it's like, well, this is one of those cases where, the parents have to do the parenting and at least show the kids that, yeah, this exists, but you may not want to do this yet. But they're going to find ways to do it. There's been reports out, and I don't know how true there are, of kids basically stealth vaping, or, meaning that they kind of have to do it in secret, or they're using it for other means.
What do you mean they're using it for other means?
For vaping marijuana.
Oh.
Yeah. Some have even come out to say, well, if kids start vaping, then it might lead to cigarette smoking or the analog smoking, and it's like, are you sure about that? Where's the, you know what I mean? And I think what they're basing this on is that there's a lot of the big tobacco companies that have kind of jumped on the e-cig bandwagon, but what they're selling is stuff that really is more disposable. But it's still considered vaping. You have something called, I don't know if you've seen them up in Canada, these blue cigarettes, these blue e-cigs, they kind of look like a long black pen, or with something called Enjoy, where they're sort of like they kind of look like a cigarette, but they're not. But you have the battery and the cartridge and everything.
Yeah, I have seen them, yep.
Yeah. That's what they're being sold, but those things are not very good quality. However, if you want to get an idea of what vaping is, you can at least try that. But what I know of in the community, there's a lot more and better things that you can do. And there's a lot of companies out there, too.
Mm-hmm. So, what other, since we've been taught, well, I guess the last time we had a radio show together would be when I was doing my shows with that channel, and oh boy, that must be
that was a while ago.
Yeah. That'd be about 2008, maybe.
Something like that.
Yeah. So, what other things have you been up to since then?
Oh boy. Well, as it said in my bio there, I'm now the Secretary at the state level for Business and Professional Women of Michigan. I've been pretty busy with that, just helping getting out their newsletter, keeping track of social media things, attending conferences and whatnot. I'm a member of the the Enterprising Professional Women's Organization is basically like another branch of Business and Professional Women International.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, on the virtual level, I'm basically the main social media person where I do updates and whatnot. And I actually recently got an award for innovation since I helped get things set up. And that was back in November.
No kidding.
Yep. And now the latest thing right now has been being a host on VapeNet once a week.
So where did you get this award from?
It was actually from the EPW Women's Organization. They had a conference down in Tennessee that I wasn't able to go to, but I got my award in the mail anyway. So I got the recognition, and they acknowledged me.
Nice.
Yep.
Well, Andy's got tons of questions for you. So
go for it.
I'm sorry. I've been holding up the works here. Okay, go ahead, Andy.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, it's not so much a question, more. Well, no, it is a question. Then it's reading a couple of articles. If I was listening to you, I mean, I know exactly what you're talking about, but I would think vaping. What the? And I mean, the first question for the listeners really is: are you on the side of vaping, or are you against vaping? Because for 1 minute I thought, no, she's that way, then she's that way.
In my case, I'm actually for vaping because I have seen what it has done to so many people, how it has improved their health, how it has improved their lifestyle. Some people who, when they were smoking analogs, they couldn't breathe very well. Now that they've taken to vaping, they can breathe a lot better. And part of it, I think, is because of what's in it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I was going to sort of highlight to the listeners two things, really. One was from, it's called vapestick.co.uk.
I think I've heard of that.
Yeah, it's more and more people from over the UK are enjoying electronic cigarettes. Many people find them to be much safer alternative to tobacco. Well, we know all that anyway. The controversy surrounding these, although many electronic cigarettes users claim that e-cigarettes have helped tremendously in nicotine replacement therapy, electronic cigarettes are not promoted as a device that can effectively help quit smoking. It's actually illegal for manufacturers to market an electronic cigarette in the UK as a tobacco cessation device. Some people think that the use of these cigarettes could actually cause non-smokers to start smoking again, and then eventually more will be smoking the real tobacco. I'm not going to read all of this, but the bit about are they safe, they definitely are, because my wife smokes them now. She has a little, she'll go from 30 to 25, I think it is, 20, right. 15, 5. Okay, I'm on 5. I need a normal fag. Okay, it's early days yet. But basically, the UK is banning all these type of cigarettes from under for under 18s.
Yeah.
Now that's a bit, what's the word? Critical. You know, when basically they're allowing them to smoke normal cigarettes,
right.
but they're banning the electronic ones at 18, over 18s only. But a new article only coming out in the last couple of hours, actually, by sheer coincidence. Oh no, this is it about the under 18s. But you're allowed to smoke fags officially at 16. You know, normal cancer-driven tobacco.
Right.
But at 18, you know, you've got to be over 18 to smoke the safe alternative. That's hypocritical, isn't it?
Well, especially in the because the UK is a little bit different. That doesn't make sense. You're allowed to do it at 16, but that doesn't make sense to me, actually. That really doesn't make sense to me. But exactly what you just pointed out there, Andy, is kind of like what's happening here in the States, where they don't mind if people are smoking cigarettes, even if they have to do it outside or in public. But oh my God, there's this e-cigarette. It's something different. It looks like smoking, and a lot of it, I'll tell you, comes from these hardcore antsy people. You know, the real, what we call the ants, as we like to call them, because these are the people that are sort of like they're kind of like fundamental anti-smokers, is the best way to put it. Because if it looks like, you know, the whole idea, if it looks like a duck, it's not like a duck, it must be a duck type of deal. That's probably where a lot of it's coming from. And because of the power that they have generated, that's why they've been able to have influence on some of these city councils and other government bodies like they do. And going over to the UK case, I actually know somebody who's a host on another vaping network, on what's called Vape TV. And for him, you know, he's been talking about this, and he's been an activist for a while too. And I've also heard also in the EU, where some countries in the EU are, and some countries are looking to ban as well.
Yeah, just the last point on this. I'm just checking my facts. I am right on that, but it is a bit odd. But 1 million people in the UK are smoking e-cigarettes, and it's suggested they've only been around 2 years, but the cancer detection rate is going down for smoking-related deaths and illnesses because of e-cigarettes. But they had it on telly the other day. The UK government has said that they want to totally ban e-cigarettes within the next few months.
Yeah, and now over there in the UK, have they given any kind of concrete or specific reason as to why? Have they given the same arguments like they have here in the United States? It's going to influence kids and things like that.
I think the main argument is they're dangerous. I don't see how, because you don't light them up.
Well, okay, I know where the argument is coming from, because there have been news stories that have come out that's talking about how batteries have, like the lithium batteries have exploded, or, you know, some kids have accidentally are getting the e-juice in their mouth. Well, here's the thing. First of all, number one, you got to know where to use common sense, and you got to learn you have to have safety precautions as far as using the e-cig equipment. I mean, that's like a no-brainer, to be honest with you. And I think where a lot of this stuff is coming out is because they've heard all these cases, and it's cases of people who were probably not given the right information. They weren't told exactly what to do once, like, you know, their battery ran out of, you know, they have to recharge it. And, like, for example, I'll give you one case that I've heard of. That was a news story. Where we have, like, what they call these ego batteries. And the one thing you're not supposed to do is you're not supposed to charge them into your laptop, because it's going to screw up the programming in your laptop. You have to get like a specific charger. Well, some people have not been told that, or at least one case, and the laptop caught on fire and melted pretty good. So because of that news story coming out, people say, oh, we must ban the e-cigs. Well, wait a minute. It's a person who didn't get taught right, and they were probably stupid to begin with.
I'll tell you another, one last comment, Susan, and then I'll let you have Tim again. But this is even more hypocritical. I've just sent you both articles now. The first one says the e-cigarette is banned until you're 18. Now, the Wikipedia about smoking age, and you scroll down to the UK, you're allowed to smoke at 16, unless I'm going mad, but you're not allowed to buy them until you're 18. So if Mum buys you fags, you can smoke them, but you can't buy them yourself.
Yeah, that's really weird. But this is good. This is actually good info I can take to the staff and people over at CASA and Vaping Militia, because I know they like to, even though we're focusing on U.S. as well as Canada. It's also good for them to learn about the international side as well, because we're hoping to get that. Maybe eventually once we get more numbers or whatever.
Yeah, I've double-checked. Smoking age in the UK, 16. Purchase age, 18.
Wow.
I'll give you some more bizarre facts now, Lamir. Georgia in Asia does the same. Israel does the same as the UK. Japan, believe it or not, you've got to be 20 before you can smoke and buy. 21 in Kuwait. Blah, 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 blah. Just finding some bizarre ones here, but they're all pretty reasonable.
Right.
Most of them are 18, but Ireland is the same as the UK. 16 to smoke, 18 to buy. It's funny, isn't it, when you look into things?
Yeah, it is. Oh, trust me. There's a couple of shows that are on vapors.tv, which is where the vaping channels are now, and where VapeNet is on now. And we've talked about
Costa Rica's mad, by the way, Susan. Costa Rica, you can smoke at the age of 10, but you can't buy them until you're 18. So that's all on Wikipedia.
Wow, that's really interesting. That is really, really interesting. And yeah, or in the case of the United States, they're legalizing some things, but now they want to ban e-cigs. It's like, what, you have to have to ban something to prove a point? I don't get it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's often the case with these things, isn't it, that there doesn't seem to be any sense to the policies or any consistency to the way they address these things. So,
Well, the other thing, it's something that you're going to find too that might be interesting on your side over in Canada there, Tim, is there are some United States e-juice companies that will not ship to Canada, and one of the reasons why is people have had problems sending their products to Canadian customers only to be seized by the Canadian border and right at the border.
Wow.
And the claim is Health Canada that's basically saying something, but they're saying, but they've said, we're not doing all this, so we don't know what the deal is with that. And a lot of Canadians are going, well, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. There's a lot of stuff I want to try in the U.S., but I can't get to them. Even though they may have companies in Canada, there's a lot of business happening in the United States, and business is booming. However, you got two different groups of people there. You got the groups that are in it for the money, and the groups now that are starting to come out, and the companies coming out saying, oh, wait a minute, if this is a ban here, that's going to affect my business. But there's a lot of companies a lot of e-cig and e-juice companies that just don't care about that.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever been to Canada, Sue?
It's been a while, actually. It's been a long while.
Oh, really? Where did you visit when you came?
Oh boy! Well, I was a kid. I was kind of young. I was probably like in elementary, middle school back then, and we did this family trip where I think we started we did like an East Coast trip, and on our way back we went through like Niagara Falls and the Toronto area. I think once or twice we went through. We've been in Toronto and then came back home that way.
Oh, okay.
And also to Montreal and Quebec too. I've been to.
Well, you'll have to come up and go camping sometime.
Oh, there you go. Actually, I know a couple of people. My boyfriend probably would be interested in that since he's into canoeing right now.
Yeah, no, it's the best place in the world for camping. Oh, it's good. Wow. I love Muskoka. Don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it's, it's a beautiful place. Picturesque, nice rocky, and lots of pines all around. I guess if you've ever been to parts of New York State, then yeah, you get the picture. You know what it looks like.
Oh yeah. So Tim, you got any other questions related to vaping and e-cigs and?
How can this approach to social networking explode into something bigger?
That's a good question. I think it's people just finding out. I think it's what people find out and they discover how it helps them. But the thing is that a lot of the online community, I'm not sure the ratio between that and what you have as far as real life, like the real world e-cig users. There's actually a lot. Actually, the online community is quite small, especially if you in terms of if you're looking at, because there's like maybe on vapors.tv now. There's got to be at least. It keeps growing. The first time I went to check out these vaping channels, there was maybe about maybe 5 or 6, and now it's exploded to about 10 or 12. And I think it's because I don't know. I don't really know what it is, because I know there's a lot of these big conventions. There's one coming up in Chicago in April called what is it called? Called Vape Bash. And basically, it's all the people from the networks and all these e-cig companies who get together and meet each other in real life. So I don't know what it is. I think it's because of how the community helps people, even helping new vapors. I've seen new people who have just started out who have been basically literally hooked up with like a new kit or some e-juice, and these people will buy it for them, and they get all this stuff so they can get started out literally for nothing. And it's there's like no words to describe it. I've even said it on my shows. There really isn't words to describe how this community is. They're just that good. Now, granted, just like any other group, there's drama that happens, you know. But when you put the drama aside, you got a force that we're now trying, and that's where the vaping militia's been coming in, trying to get time to rally the troops, if you will, because all this stuff is like coming down from all these communities. I'll give you an example of one. I can get up my chat here from CASA, where they put out these call to actions in New Jersey, and that's been the latest one, or the let's see, New Jersey, Utah, Rhode Island, Tennessee, supporting ones that where they want. Here's a good one: a call to action to support a Tennessee bill that would exclude e-cigs from smoking bans and tobacco taxes. Where there's a lot of places want to include it into the smoking ban and tobacco taxes.
Oh. Okay. So, fascinating. Oh my goodness. So what is your next gig going to be? What is it that you want to get into next, social activism wise?
You know, I don't know right now. It's like it seems to be one of those things. I don't find it. It sort of finds me.
That's kind of true.
It really does. It really does. And at the moment, with the women's groups right now, and fighting for equal pay and the fight for, you know, just equality in general, and now the vaping rights, those seem to be my top 3 at the moment.
Right.
You know, and then being part of the Peace and Justice group, as was mentioned too in my bio, you know, there's been some variations there there's certain topics there that I've become a bit more passionate about too. So it's whatever's been finding me. So
okay,
I usually don't know.
Yeah. What about the Peace and Justice group? Give us an indication of what kind of issues that you've been championing there.
Well, last year, one of the things we did is we connected with the pro-life group, or the Right to Life group, and we basically did a series together on human trafficking, and they did a presentation first, and then we sort of did a follow-up. Well, through some connections that I had, I met this gentleman by the name of Richard Sands, who has taken up the call to arms, if you will, because his granddaughter actually died tragically as a result of human trafficking. And I also found out about another group that actually literally goes, that they work through a church, but they literally go down to the strip clubs in Detroit handing out these gift bags, saying, hey, if you want to get out of this situation, here's our card, here's, you know, they give like food and things, exactly, you know, etc. And we also had members of the Border Control come to speak. So it was like a three-part presentation that we did that just went over really, really well. So that was one of our big topics. we also talk about we also talk about poverty and the poor. One of the members of Peace and Justice, she's connected to what they call the PB&J ministry, and what they do is they make like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And there's an area in downtown Detroit by the Cass Corridor where they actually hand out food and clothes to the homeless. That's taken off. We also write articles. Our group writes articles about different topics that have been discussed as far as peace and justice, human rights leaders, just like economic inequality, things like that.
So do you think this strip club thing is always a problem? Like, I mean, if you look at the strip clubs in Toronto, it looks like most of those gals are trying to put themselves through college or something like that, and it's not like they were abducted on the street. And
well, that's something that the person that was talking about the strip club angle, she actually used to work within the system, and she said there were things that she saw and that she almost did that would give you a different take on that. She says it's the one thing they have in the appearance in the show, but behind the scenes, she says it's a totally different world. There's a lot more. She said there's a lot more control behind the scenes as far as when they should work, who they got to give, who they got to pay to, how much they're going to get paid from.
Okay. Well, so, I do remember going to a bar with my Indian buddies that I used to meet in Itaewon at that restaurant, if you remember that restaurant.
Oh, God.
That restaurant.
That's great memories.
So we used to go to a bar here or there in Itaewon, and I remember one place where there were these Russian ladies, and it wasn't a strip joint as such. It was more like they'd get up and dance and stuff like that, but they didn't take anything off.
Right.
But I remember they seemed to be kind of in a almost prison-like environment because
yes,
you know,
and that's actually what you would be surprised to find in that regard is that kind of happens too in the United States. And what a lot of people don't realize is that there's a big human trafficking problem in the United States and even through Canada, through the borders of Canada. But it's like this big it's a secret.
Mhm. Yeah.
I
guess right. Yeah. You never know what's exactly going on behind the scenes. You're true.
No, you don't, and it's a lot bigger problem than a lot of people realize or understand. But what's been great is probably within the last year, there's been a lot more awareness of it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been people coming out. There's been people that have been able to actually escape and have been doing very, very well. So there's just been a lot of positives coming from this. I see a lot more churches now having this as a topic of discussion, which was very rare before because it was almost like this taboo topic, and that's not so much anymore because now they're getting awareness that, hey, it's happening in your own backyard. Hello.
Yeah. I still get people that will say about some of these darker sides to our life, they'll say, oh, what good does it do talking about it? What good does it do knowing about it? And what can I do about it? And you still get a lot of that.
Well, you get that in any kind. I think you get that in any kind of issue anymore. There's, well, I don't know, or they don't want to do it because they feel like somebody else is going to take care of it. Well, here's the thing. When you're not taking care of it, you're actually part of the problem. I've always believed, it's sort of like when you're going to the voting booth. If you're not voting, you're just actually basically using your voice saying you're not voting. It's kind of that thing. You're still part of that system, whether you are actively involved with it or not.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing that frustrates me, and I've seen this being involved with the vaping community, we'll go back to that because that's been my latest thing now, I've seen people where they're like, I just want to have my shinies. I just want to have all my fun. Well, and my argument I come back with, well, guess what? And I always challenge them with this question: what's going to happen if one day all those rights are taken away from you? Then what are you going to do? Those are going to be the first people that are going to be complaining, saying, well, how come I didn't get this? Well, you didn't get involved, so you can have your rights.
Yeah, true enough. Very true. Very true.
I think when it comes to like activism in general, it's common sense, and that's kind of a lost art anymore.
Mm-hmm. I remember back in the day, you used to think that some of my warnings and some of my views were a little bit extreme. Do you still hold that view, or have you changed your view?
Wow. that's a loaded question right there. I think it's been half and half, actually. I would say for the most part it's changed a little bit based on what I've been seeing, not only in regards to the community I'm involved with, but even with my mom right now with fighting her breast cancer.
Okay.
And some of the things that, from her experience, she was able to figure out so she could get her second opinion. So I've seen it personally, where you realize after a while, if you've had some experience and you know the kind of BS that goes on, when you become the patient within the system, it's amazing the insights you really have, and a lot of people don't like because you have those insights.
Mhm. So, kind of, you would say then that your eyes have been opened up in some areas or some...
In a lot, I wouldn't say some areas. I'd say in quite a lot of areas. But because I think as you reach a certain point where it's like things will start hitting. I think when it starts hitting you on a personal level, it's a lot different than when you're not, than when it's not.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where people have a little bit more of an advantage of where it's personally affecting them. Hey, wait a minute, this is something I'm experiencing, and they're like, wait a minute, this is my thing, or it's my health, or it's my body, or whatever. Yeah. And they want to do this to me. Wait a minute, especially if it doesn't make sense. If on the surface it doesn't make sense, more than likely, yeah, they figured something out.
Yeah. Like when you look at the array of side effects, like try Advil. If you get headaches and feel diarrhea and feel like your bowel is falling out, then see your doctor. I mean, it's like get a clue. Maybe there's take the pill. Or well, like with people who try to quit smoking, have used Chantix. You don't know how many people I've talked to within the vaping community who tried using it, and they said they were very depressive and suicidal as a result of it. Or you look at these ads on TV for certain medication, and you're like, well, with all these side effects that they have that are a lot more than what the pill's going to do, why would you want to take it? Right, I know. It really is quite amazing how people are just blinded by the term medicine and just assume it's going to be good for them or okay with them. And but I mean, the warning in the ad is enough to make you see, well, wait a minute, maybe I should think about this a little deeper. But anyway.
Well, when it comes to health in general, we're kind of tying all these things in here. You have to be your own advocate. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about that. With my mom, she didn't like what she heard at the one hospital, and she saw it was good until she went to a specialist, which not only are the doctors phenomenal, but they're ahead of the curve in their research, and she's never been happier.
Yeah.
She's never been happy as a result of it. I mean, her surgeon, her oncologist, now her person for radiation. It's been awesome.
Yeah.
It's been really, really awesome. Whereas the regular hospitals are way behind the curtain. All they want is the money.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I think that's the same now.
So let's see what Andy's up to. What's on your mind there, Andy? You got any questions for Sue or any comments?
What's on my mind? Questions or comments? Let me think. We'll be here all day, so I haven't got no questions or comments. And what's on my mind is we need to save a few more children from being stolen, being abused, and the poor old families, having severe traumas, going to the doctors, getting these pills, getting hooked on them because, people say that, heroin's addictive. Well, fair enough, it may be. Alcohol's addictive. Yes, it may be. But so is prescription pills. So we need to wake people up and stop them going to the doctor when they need a pill because they don't often need one. I mean, I've had problems, with knees and back and all that pain. I'm 48, and yes, it really hurts. But at the end of the day, I won't have a pill. Not because other people told me not to, but because, it's a bit like something that won't work. You've got to work it. The more you work something, unless it breaks, you keep working your muscles, they'll get better.
Right.
And the same with your mental health, really. I mean, okay, you can't always feel happy, but, have a laugh. It may help.
Yeah, have a laugh or interact with others or find a social support. I totally agree with that.
I when I'm feeling down, I have a go at the government, so I feel good then.
Actually, some people, you're not the only one. I know quite a few people that are like that.
I'll get a protest going. It may be fracking, it may be vaping, it may be the children, it may be just because somebody's been run over and the street was too fast for that road. But when I'm feeling down, I go and arrange a protest.
Right. So, yeah, but now how long has your Andy, you're talking about how your wife is vaping, and when did she start with that?
About 3 months ago.
Okay, well, the thing is, and I know sometimes she probably goes back to the cigarette state, and what they say in the vaping communities is not so much the cigarettes that you smoke, the analogs that you smoke, but the ones that you don't. So even if she's going back and forth with that, it's still pretty good. At least she's still, trying to get a hang of it, if you will.
Yeah, a friend introduced her to it, and yeah, it's difficult because it's a bit like having, I suppose it's a bit like having, you're used to a McDonald's burger, but if you make it yourself, well, maybe that's not a good answer because all meat's bad anyway. But you know the scenario I'm trying to say.
Yeah. You
may have bad habits, but at least you're getting rid of them slowly. But at least you're getting rid of them.
Yeah, very true. Very true.
Yeah. That's like purifying yourself and getting rid of the baggage one bag at a time, I guess.
Well, that's what I'm doing. I've basically in the last 3 or 4 weeks, it's been a long struggle, but I've said now, there's no more meat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, well, there will be chicken that's organic, and it has to be from a local shop, not a supermarket. It has to be from a farmer that can, for now anyway, and fish, as long as it didn't come from Fukushima. But at least, fish and chicken isn't so bad if you get it from the right suppliers. Because organic chicken, I don't believe, you correct me if I'm wrong, they have any vaccines whatsoever. And of course, healthy eating, bit of exercise is good. So, yeah, don't worry about the 90 seconds. We've got recording time afterwards.
Ah, there you go.
Yeah. If ever you decide to come over, Susan, and be a host, carry on. Come over and be a host.
Yeah, I'll have to think about it. I'll definitely have to think about it.
Yeah, there's also a way of doing your own show the way you do it, but you need 2 computers. You log into our login. Be quiet, lady. You log into our login area, whether it be Blog Talk or Spreaker, and or Spreaker on one computer in a second Skype name, and you do the same on your own show as normal, but it goes through two networks at the same time.
Yeah, I've known people, a couple vape show hosts who have done something similar to that, where they use like 2 or 3 computers, and yeah, some of them go into production. I tell you, some of them have a production that goes on.
You know, it gives you that opportunity then only to do one show a week, but some people are ambitious. They want to do more than one.
Oh yeah, well, there's been times I've actually had to fill in over on VapeNet, like when the host can't make it, or they're sick or whatnot, and you know, and the group that I've been with since mid-December, it has been a really good, cool group, and about maybe I'd say a third of us are from Michigan, as a matter of fact, which is pretty funny.
Sounds good, Tim, doesn't it?
Does indeed. Yeah, Sue's always interesting and always into something interesting. But, hey, that's why I keep in touch with her. So, what do you think about coming back to America after spending time over there 3 years, I think you said, in Seoul and Korea? Which place did you like living better?
Well, I'm still in the States.
Yeah,
so I haven't quite left it. I would like to go back to Korea to visit, but I'd actually would like to spend some time in Taiwan because I have quite a few friends from college there that I still keep in touch with.
Oh, you want Taiwan then? Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to spend some time over there and, just, maybe live a year or two. I haven't decided on that yet. It all depends. I'd like to take my boyfriend with me if I'm able to, but because of financial constraints and whatnot, that's been a little bit on the difficult side.
Yeah, I know. It's tough. The times don't cooperate with our plans, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's true. But, it's still been great keeping it. I still keep in touch with a couple of people that I remember you and I, Tim, used to hang out with in Korea.
Like?
There's a few of them. Couple of members of the IFS, the International Friendship Group.
Right.
And I know 2 of them are actually doing pretty well for themselves. Actually, the 3 of them that I still chat with on and off are doing really well for themselves. One of them, he's published a bunch of English language books, and he's actually been on television, on television, talking about what he calls action English, which is pretty, so he's kind of made that a success. Another one, he's become an actor, and I think he's doing like small bit roles or small parts for Korean drama or something. And then another one who we know of, he's working, I think he's got a job with the Port Authority, and he helps like bring the cruise ships in and all that kind of stuff, so.
Oh, yeah. Cool. Yeah, no, it's nice to see people doing well. I like the International Friendship Society. I enjoyed that club, and lots of nice people that we met them.
Well, I found through that one, too. That's where I had some of the best luck as far as getting connections to other things, too. And that's been happening. And it's funny because a lot of those things are kind of coming back now, being involved with the vaping community, because I'm finding people to connect with, or I can say, oh, you can talk to this person because they're a good guy, or, things like that. So I've gotten like a different creative drive, if you will, because what I'm actually looking to do is I'm looking to get some things going. I've gotten some new inspiration where I want to knit some vaping accessories. And I realized, hey, there's a market out there for that. And so what I'm going to be doing on my shows in February, which are on Monday, they're on Monday nights for a couple hours. I'm actually going to do the first part of the show is going to be talking, basically showing people how to do some of the accessories that I make. So in each week it's going to be something different.
Oh, cool. So what kind of accessories do you make? Hats, scarves?
Well, if we're talking vaping accessories, lanyards so they can hold their e-cig vaping device, like charms, like knitted charms, maybe like because maybe like a cloth to, clean their vaping accessories with, things like that.
I get you.
At the moment. But as far as other accessories, I still do other stuff. I still knit my Christmas gifts every year and give to people, like hats, scarves, Afghan. I'm in a process of making an Afghan to donate to a friend of mine. She has a charity that she created because her son has it's a kind of, especially he has a heart situation, and her organization is called Hope for Hearts. And so they're having an auction coming up, and so I'm knitting. She asked me if I could knit something for the auction.
Oh, cool. All right.
So I've been doing a lot of that kind of stuff.
Well, that's great, Sue. Oh, I may even buy a scarf from you for next winter.
Hey, there you go.
There you
Contact
go.
me. Let me know. We can work something out. Well, I either do it for buy or even trading for things too. So, that's actually a new thing coming out now is bartering and trading for stuff. There's a website out there I've come across where you can sign up and you can. I forgot what it is. I forgot what it is off the top of my head, but there is a website you can sign on to for just trading.
Well, that's cool. I've found that I've been able to get quite good things online in the past, where you can get free items that people are wanting to give away and stuff like that.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a plethora of even just artisans and crafters out there. You'd be surprised.
Yes, sir. Okay, well, great, Sue. Look, I mean, if there's anything that you can do social networking-wise and social activism-wise with Andy and Maggie and so on, we gotta get you on maybe a show where there's more of a round table discussion, so all you folks can get to know each other. I mean, you've met Andy today, which is great, but
yeah, absolutely.
You love Maggie Tuttle. She is quite a character, and like you, heavily involved in activism and all that. She just had an accident, unfortunately, and she's unbreakable, of course, but still, she's a bit bruised up.
That's a bummer.
Trust me, today she's very nearly back to old self again. I got a capital B ending in G comment from her today. There's an O and an L in it as well. So I've been told off today. So she's back to old self again. Maggie's good, and we can do a show anytime.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, let's keep in touch, all. And thanks for being on the show, Sue. And
not a problem.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. You take good care, okay, hon?
Absolutely. We'll definitely be in touch.
Okay, dear.
Thanks, Sue.
Yeah, not a problem. Thank you, guys.
Okay, talk to you soon, Sue.
All right. Bye-bye.
Well, shall we end the show then, Tim?
Yeah, I think, like it's 10 after 2, and I think we've pretty much covered our tracks. And so, let's end for today.
Yeah, on Monday, if everything's okay, we've got Alvin Harris, and he's an author about something to do with America. I forgot now. Rough Times in America, I think that's what the book's called. But I think he's coming on the second hour. So the first hour, we've got our usual flow. And that's if your time zones are okay as well. So for now, anyway, we'll end the show and we'll discuss that in a second. Just play the show, one of the promos.
freedomtalkradio.co.uk. This is the most diverse, most amazing, one of the funniest radio stations you could ever listen to on the internet. I've heard so much stuff from the ups, the downs, the lefts, the rights, the politics, the non-politics, the schmolitics, whatever you want to call them. It's great.
Freedom Talk Radio, www.freedomtalkradio.co.uk, Freedom Talk Radio.
Wow.